Take a slow, steady breath because I understand how heavy this silence feels right now. You've done one of the most difficult things possible by choosing yourself and cutting the connection. But the quiet isn't as comforting as you thought it would be. Instead, it's a sharp, echoing emptiness that keeps you awake at night, making you wonder if they ever truly cared. I can see that hurt, and you're not wrong for feeling it. There's a unique kind of pain that settles in when you finally go no contact. It's the moment you realize that while you're gathering the broken pieces of yourself, the one who hurt you seems to have disappeared into a completely new life. You might have expected a confrontation or even a heartfelt apology, but instead, you're met with a cold, deliberate absence. It can feel like you never mattered at all, and that kind of erasure is its own kind of trauma. You find yourself scrolling, or maybe just staring into space, waiting for something to happen. You've blocked their number and erased the pictures, yet their presence still lingers in your thoughts. Why does it seem like they're winning the breakup? Why does their silence hit like a physical ache in your chest? It's because their behavior is intentional, and there's something deeper happening beneath it. We need to face a difficult truth. This is the tactic they use when they realize they can no longer control you. Many people would call it moving on, but in this case, it becomes a form of psychological harm. They're not just continuing life without you. They're carefully shaping a version, of reality where you were the problem and they came out on top. It's a slow, calculated kind of cruelty meant to make you break first. Think about all the times they said they couldn't live without you. The tears, the desperate promises that you were the only one who truly understood them. Now look at the silence. It's unsettling, isn't it? The shift from intense dependence to total indifference can leave anyone emotionally shaken. Shaken. It makes you question every memory you once held as meaningful and real. This isn't only about their absence. It's about how they left. When you go no contact, you're taking your power back. But they see it as betrayal. They can't accept that you ended the story, so they begin rewriting it without you, casting you as the villain. It becomes a silent, invisible conflict, and the quiet gives them space to reshape the narrative. You might catch glimpses of them through social media or hear things from mutual friends. And what do you notice? One who seems happier than ever. They're doing all the things you once asked for, smiling with an ease you rarely saw before. It feels like a slap, and that's not accidental. It's a performance, and you're the intended audience. You need to understand that feeling discarded is something many people in this situation experience. But just because it's common doesn't make it any less painful. It can feel like your entire shared past has been rewritten while you weren't paying attention. You're grieving the relationship while they appear to celebrate your absence. It doesn't make sense because you're dealing with someone who doesn't operate with a normal emotional compass. Let's be honest for a moment. The hardest part isn't just that they moved on. It's how quickly and coldly it happened. It's how they can look into someone else's eyes and repeat the same words they once said to you. It can feel like something inside you has died. You start questioning whether you were ever truly important or just something they used until it no longer served them. That doubt is exactly what they leave behind on purpose. Now, we're going to look more closely at what's really happening in that silence and why their apparent happiness is misleading. By the end, you won't see their silence as something to fear. You'll understand it clearly for what it is. You're not being erased. You're being replaced with an illusion. And illusions don't last. To understand this behavior, you have to see that their ego is like a container with a huge leak. No matter how much love, attention, or effort you gave, it was never enough to keep it full. When you went no contact, you stopped giving. For them, this isn't heartbreak. It's a blow to their ego. They didn't just lose a partner, they lost a primary source of validation. And that makes them unpredictable. They don't process loss the way you do. When you lose someone, you reflect, feel, and try to understand. They avoid that completely because self-reflection is something they fear. If they allowed themselves to miss you, they might have to confront who they really are. So instead, they immediately redirect their focus. They find someone new, a fresh source to mirror back the image they want to believe about themselves. It's not about love, it's about survival. Think of this new person as a surface fix on something that's deeply damaged underneath. They need that person to accept the illusion so they can keep believing it too. That's why everything happens so quickly. It's not because they found something real. It's because they found someone new to fill the role. You held that role for a long time. But once you stopped responding to their behavior, they had to move on to someone who hasn't yet seen through it yet. It's completely strategic. The silence you're feeling isn't accidental. It's a form of punishment. In their mind, you abandon them the moment you set boundaries. To someone like this, a boundary feels like an attack. So their complete disappearance becomes a message. You think you can live without me? I'll prove that you're nothing. It's a deliberate attempt to trigger your fear of abandonment and push you into returning. They are counting on your emotional response to bring you back to them. At the same time, they are rewriting the story of your relationship as it happens. Every argument they caused turns into something you did to them. Every lie they told becomes something they claim you were hiding. They need to see themselves as the victim to justify what they do next. If they are the victim, then replacing you immediately isn't cruelty or betrayal. It becomes their version of healing. It's a deeply twisted logic that lets them rest easy at night. You may notice that they suddenly start doing all the things you once encouraged. Maybe they begin working out, traveling, or acting like the perfect partner with someone new. This isn't real growth. It's imitation. They are using everything you shared to create a setup for the next person. They're taking your ideas, your hopes, and your preferences to construct a version of themselves that isn't genuine. It's a performance, and you unknowingly helped write the script. Behind that act, they are actually in a state of intense inner panic. Without you to blame for their unhappiness, they have to quickly find someone else to carry that weight. The new person is already being shaped to replace you in every way. They aren't truly being loved. They're being given a role to play. And the painful truth is that they have no idea the script they're following was written through your suffering. Another harsh reality is how they use your absence to create a false image of purity. With you gone, there's no one to challenge their version of events or speak the truth. They can tell any story they want. To others, they appear free from your supposed toxicity. It feels like betrayal, because it is. They damage your reputation to protect their own. It becomes a quiet smear campaign that grows stronger in your absence. They want you to see their new life. They want you to notice how much better they seem. If they were genuinely happy, they wouldn't need to show it so publicly. Truly content people are focused on living, not proving their happiness to someone they claim not to care about. Every perfect post is designed to hit you emotionally. They are trying to get a reaction, because any reaction, even anger, means they still have influence over you. Here's the truth you need to hold on to. Their indifference is only a disguise for their need for control. They are paying far more attention to you than you realize. They're watching to see if you're breaking. They're waiting for a message from you so they can ignore it and feel powerful. Their silence isn't empty. It's intentional. It's driven by ego and control as they wait to see if you will give in first. Then things begin to shift. Weeks or even months pass and you stay silent. This is when they realize their silence isn't working. Instead of returning with apologies or attempts to reconnect, they intensify their behavior. This is where it stops being just a breakup and starts feeling like a psychological battle. The idea that you might truly be done is something they can't accept. Suddenly, people you both know start acting differently. You may be excluded from conversations or group interactions. You begin to hear that distorted, painful versions of your private moments are being shared. This is when they begin a form of social attack. It hurts deeply because it feels like you're losing not just the relationship, but your sense of community as well. They build a narrative filled with lies and position you outside of it. You might even see them showing up at places you used to love, now with someone new. They don't just appear. They make a display of their happiness. It's exaggerated and intentional. They might wear things you gave them or repeat phrases you once shared. It can feel like watching your own life being acted out by someone else. It's as if parts of your identity are being taken and worn by another person, while others accept it without question. Meanwhile, they pay attention to how you react, often through others. Every time your pain reaches them, they see it as a victory. If you try to defend yourself, they twist it into proof that you're unstable. They provoke you, hoping you'll react emotionally. If you do, it reinforces the story they've created about you. It's a trap, and the only way to avoid it is by not engaging. This is often when you feel most alone. You come to understand that the person you cared about doesn't just want distance. They want to erase you. It's a level of cruelty that's hard to comprehend. While you're asking how they could do this, they're focused on how far they can take it. The gap between your empathy and their coldness feels impossible to bridge. But the truth is, you don't need to bridge it. As time goes on, the pace of their new life seems to speed up. Big steps happen quickly. A new commitment, a new home, public declarations of having found a soulmate. It feels like they're racing away from you, but in reality, they are trying to outrun something within themselves. Be forced to face a truth they've spent their entire lives avoiding. Instead, they keep running, trying to outrun their own emptiness. They rush to build a new reality before the old one catches up with them. It's frantic and desperate, an ongoing attempt to stay ahead of what they've done. They survive on constant external validation, and the new person becomes the engine that keeps it going. If you look closely, you can start to notice the cracks. But most of the time, your own pain makes them hard to see. The new person begins to seem worn down. The posts become more frequent, more exaggerated. That perfect life starts to feel staged, because it is. It's a facade that requires non-stop effort. The truth is, they're exhausted, but they can't stop. They need to prove to you and everyone else that you are the only obstacle to their happiness. Minds. Here's the twist. They haven't actually moved on. Everything they're doing is still a reaction to you. If you didn't exist, there would be no performance. In a strange way, you're still at the center of their world, but now as something they're trying to escape. They circle around you with a mix of fear and anger. Their happiness is just a defense, a shield against the silence you've created. And that silence as painful as it feels, is actually a sign that you're healing. If you truly meant nothing, they wouldn't go to such lengths to erase you. There would be no smear campaign, no dramatic displays, no effort at all. People don't work this hard to forget someone who never mattered. Their need to prove they're over you is proof that they aren't. Your silence reflects something back to them they cannot bear to face. Let that realization settle in. They are putting in constant emotional effort to maintain an illusion, while you are simply living your truth. You're grieving, yes. You're hurting, but you're being real. There's a quiet shift of power happening. You're grounded in reality, while they're performing inside a collapsing illusion, trying to convince everyone that everything is fine. The real turning point comes when you stop watching entirely. Then comes the hardest phase. The sense of erasure starts to feel permanent. You begin to accept that the person you thought you knew is gone, or maybe never truly existed. It may seem like the new person is getting the version of them you always hoped for, but that version isn't real. It's borrowed, pieced together from everything you once gave. Slowly, the consequences of their behavior begin to surface. Even if you can't see it yet, things are shifting beneath the surface. They start believing their own false narrative, and that's where the collapse begins. For a brief moment, convincing others that you were the problem gives them relief, but it's fragile. It depends on no one questioning them and on you staying silent. Their new life is built on unstable ground. Every day they live it, they have to keep hiding who they really are. You might notice them doing the exact things you once asked for, taking that trip, getting that pet, living that life. It feels personal, like a targeted wound. It makes you wonder if you weren't enough. But the truth is harsher than that. They aren't doing those things out of love for someone. Else? They're doing them because they know it affects you. It's not a gift. It's a tool. And underneath, it's empty. What they don't realize is that they're trapped in a repeating cycle. They think they've escaped the past, but they've only carried it into a new situation. Eventually, the new person will set a boundary, make a mistake, or stop meeting their needs. And in that moment, the pattern begins again. The same devaluation, the same detachment, it's already written. The reality is simple. They aren't happy. No image or performance can hide the fact that they're running from themselves. Their life is one long escape from the guilt of what they did and from the truth of who they are. You, on the other hand, were real. You loved honestly, and that matters more than anything they pretend. Now, by trying to erase you, they've lost something genuine, something they may never find again. They chose something easier, something shallow, because it requires less truth. And that's the life they're left with, chasing temporary highs that never truly satisfy. They're waiting for you to break. They expect a reaction, a message, a confrontation, something to pull you back into their orbit. They need you to stay involved. But when you don't respond, when you truly step away, you become something they can't control. You become the unknown. Your absence becomes a reminder of what they lost and what they couldn't control. They can't win a game you're no longer playing. And that's the one thing they can't handle. The closure you're hoping for won't come from them. They will never say the words you deserve to hear. If they did, it would mean facing the truth, and that's something they've spent their entire lives avoiding. Force them to admit they are flawed, and their ego simply won't allow that. Their version of closure is making you feel insignificant so they can feel powerful. To them, it's a zero-sum game. So you have to find your own closure in understanding that they are incapable of real change. The way they behave after the breakup is the most honest reflection of who they truly are. They resent you because you saw through them. You recognized what was behind the mask. The insecurity, the fear hidden beneath the anger and inflated self-image. The new person hasn't seen that yet. To them, you are living proof of the truth they're trying to hide. By erasing you, they are attempting to destroy that evidence. But truth doesn't disappear. It leaves a mark. It becomes something they can't fully escape. And now comes the difficult realization. They didn't love you in the way you understand love. They were attached to how you made them feel, to what you gave and how you supported them. When that stopped, they treated you as something no longer useful. It's a harsh truth, but there's a strange freedom in it. If their attachment wasn't real love, then their attempt to erase you isn't truly personal. It's just a pattern in how they treat people they can't control anymore. Step out of that darkness for a moment and look at yourself. You are free. You're no longer responsible for carrying someone else's endless insecurity. Everything they did, the silence, the replacement, the damage to your name, was the final lesson. It showed you clearly who they are, so you would never be pulled back in. What looks like their happiness is only a surface layer hiding deeper instability. You may see the image they present, but not the strain underneath it. You are the one who has stepped into something real. It may feel unfamiliar or even painful, but it's honest. You are no longer trapped in performance. You don't have to adjust yourself to meet impossible expectations. You can be imperfect, emotional, and real. That's something they cannot do. They are stuck playing a role, repeating the same patterns while you've stepped out into real life. The feeling of being forgotten may seem painful, but it's also what finally untied you from them. If they were still present, you might still be caught in that cycle. Their absence, even if it feels cruel, is also what allows you to fully move on. Your pain is valid. It makes sense that this hurts, that you feel replaced, that it feels deeply unfair. But there's also strength in what you've done. You walked away from something damaging and chose yourself. That takes more courage than it might feel like right now. Take back your story. They don't get to define what happened or who you are. You know what was real? The care you gave, the effort you made, and the way you were treated in return. What they say now doesn't change that. The truth doesn't need to be loudly defended. It just needs to be held on to. Over time, the people who matter will understand, and those who don't were never meant to stay in your life anyway. Focus on rebuilding your world in a way that no longer includes them. Each small moment, taking care of yourself, finding peace, connecting with genuine people, is a step forward, not because you're trying to prove anything to them, but because you're growing beyond them. You're becoming someone they wouldn't even recognize anymore. And that's where your safety lies. Mandya. Imagine walking away from something that once consumed everything around it. You don't need to turn back or check if it's still burning. You just keep moving forward until the air feels lighter and clearer. That's where you are headed. And you didn't lose. You gained your way out. You can feel, reflect, and grow while they remain stuck in the same repeating cycle. What they did wasn't a victory. It was their last attempt to hold on to control. And all it really showed is how far beyond that you already are. blend. The real freedom comes when they stop taking up space in your mind, not when they see you happy, but when you no longer think about them at all.